This is not a video about your personality. Your rising sign is not who you are. It is the life you were forced to live. It is the terrain your soul entered before there was memory, before there was safety, before there was consent. We begin by understanding what this rising sign is. Aries Rising, the Primordial Spark. In ancient astrology, this point was called the Horoskopos, the hour marker. It is the place where the chart begins and where the soul meets time. In modern terms, the rising sign is the vessel of identity, the interface between the inner life and the external world. This is not your personality. It is the conditions under which your personality forms. For Aries Rising, the motto is simple: unfiltered, unnegotiable. I am, not I think, not I feel, but I exist, therefore I act. Every vessel has a governor. For Aries Rising, the sovereign ruler is Mars. Mars is not anger. Mars is will in motion. It is the force that decides, initiates, and commits the body to action. Mars does not ask why. It answers now. This is why Aries Rising moves before it reflects, because the ruler demands momentum. The sun is exalted here, not because Aries seeks attention, but because identity burns brightest when it is unencumbered by hesitation. The solar self in Aries is not refined. It is pure ignition. Aries is the chariot. Mars is the iron hand upon the reins. To understand the direction of this life, you must look to the house where Mars resides. That is where the battle is staged. That is where action becomes fate. Aries Rising is forged from fire. Fire is combustible, luminous, severing. It does not accumulate, it ignites. This rising sign is cardinal, initiating, direct, and forward-moving. It is not reactive by nature. It is originating. Aries Rising is diurnal, active, outward-facing, and solar in orientation. Life is met head-on, not processed internally first. In the language of temperament, this constitution is choleric, hot and dry, not as a metaphor, as a lived condition. Heat creates urgency. Dryness creates separation. The soul enters the world as a sudden burst of fire, drying the waters of spirit to forge a hardened will. This is why Aries Rising moves quickly, why patience feels unnatural, why hesitation feels like decay. This is not a flaw. It is the material you were given. Every ascendant casts a shadow across the horizon. For Aries Rising, that shadow falls in Libra. On one side of the axis stands the warrior. I initiate. On the other stands the diplomat. We harmonize. This is not a contradiction. It is a tension. Aries Rising enters life as a singular force, decisive, immediate, uncompromising. Libra introduces the presence of the other. Here, destiny appears as people. Opposition is not an enemy, it is a mirror. Through relationship, Aries Rising learns that courage without consideration becomes isolation, and that true strength is the ability to stand firm without standing alone. You do not lose yourself here, you refine yourself. Now we examine how this identity functions in motion. Every rising sign carries two states: the reactive self and the integrated self. For Aries Rising, the shadow is not passivity. It is unchecked force. When unconscious, the ram charges without aim. Conflict exists for friction alone. Anger becomes armor. Rage becomes a wall to prevent vulnerability. This is the infant king, demanding immediate gratification, oblivious to the needs of the court. But the shadow is not rejected, it is refined. In its integrated state, Aries Rising becomes the sacred warrior. Courage is no longer impulsive, it is directed. Action serves protection, creation, and initiation. Battles are chosen, not stumbled into. This is the sovereign will, movement aligned with purpose, free from chaos, free from hesitation. Insight for Aries Rising. Your power is not meant to react, it is meant to mobilize. When action is conscious, you stop fighting the world and start shaping it. Counsel for others. Do not try to slow Aries Rising down. Give them a direction worth committing to. They are not reckless by nature. They are wasted when uninspired. This is the glyph of Aries Rising. Vitality is combustible. High intensity in short bursts, followed by the need to withdraw and reload. Action is to pierce. Aries Rising does not circle. It enters directly. Leadership is the vanguard, leading from the front line, not the throne. Movement creates confidence. Stillness, when forced, creates friction. The warning is simple. Do not burn the bridge while you are still standing upon it. Insight for Aries Rising. Your rhythm is not constant motion. It is strategic ignition. When you honor your need to surge and rest, your power becomes sustainable. Counsel for others. Do not mistake Aries Rising's pauses for loss of interest. Silence often means they are gathering momentum. Aries Rising changes the atmosphere of a room. The temperature rises. A charge enters the space. People often react before they understand why. To some, Aries Rising appears aggressive. To others, arrogant. Too fast. Too loud. Too much. This is projection. What others feel in your presence is not always about you. It is their relationship to decisiveness, to initiative, to unfiltered will. You become the surface onto which the world projects its discomfort with action. This is why reactions are strong, not because you are excessive, but because you are immediate. Insight for Aries Rising. You are not responsible for managing other people's unfinished relationship with courage. Awareness does not mean shrinking. It means choosing when to advance and when to wait. Counsel for others. Before labeling Aries rising as aggressive, ask yourself what action their presence is asking of you. Often what feels like pressure is simply momentum. The body carries the signature of the rising sign. For Aries rising, the emphasis is on the head, the face, the eyes, the front of the body. There is a forward-leaning posture, as if movement begins before thought. The gaze is direct, unblinking, eyes that meet the world head-on. The voice tends toward impact, staccato, decisive, often breaking silence before it has finished forming. Aries rising governs heat and circulation. There may be a tendency toward fevers, inflammation, headaches, migraines, or scars that mark lived initiation. This is not fragility, it is intensity. The body recovers quickly, burning through illness with speed, but demanding periods of rest to rebalance. Insight for Aries rising. Your body is not asking you to slow down forever. It is asking you to recognize when heat has no outlet. Movement is medicine, but so is recovery. Counsel for others. Do not mistake Aries rising's physical urgency for aggression. Their body moves before their words do. Aries rising approaches life head first. When the door opens, movement happens before assessment. Instinct favors action over analysis, momentum over caution. Barriers are not interpreted as warnings. They are read as tests. Resistance sharpens focus. Opposition activates will. The primary defense is simple: relentless offense. This does not mean chaos. It means engagement. Aries rising does not wait for certainty. Certainty is created through motion. Insight for Aries rising. Not every obstacle is meant to be overcome by force. Discernment is not hesitation. It is strategic timing. When you choose which doors to charge through, your energy multiplies. Counsel for others. If you block Aries rising without explanation, expect escalation. If you want cooperation, engage them directly. They respond to clarity, not obstruction. Next, we look at where life applies pressure. This axis governs what sustains you and what consumes you. For Aries rising, the second house falls in Taurus. Here, value must be tangible, stable, reliable. Fire requires earth to endure. Security is built slowly, through consistency, patience, and the accumulation of real substance. The 8th house falls in Scorpio. Here resources are shared, entangled, and charged with intensity. What belongs to others cannot be controlled, only confronted, transformed, or surrendered. This is where power exchanges occur, where attachment is tested, where survival instincts deepen. The synthesis is unavoidable. To hold the stability of the bull, you must pass through the transformation of the scorpion. Insight for Aries rising. True self-reliance is not independence from others. It is the ability to stand firm while allowing life to change you at a fundamental level. This axis governs how the mind moves and where it seeks meaning. For Aries rising, the third house falls in Gemini. The local mind is quick, restless, hungry. Information is gathered rapidly, often from multiple directions at once. Questions multiply faster than answers. This is a mind that collects tools, not conclusions. The ninth house falls in Sagittarius. Here the mind seeks coherence, a guiding principle, a truth worth acting on. Scattered data is forged into belief. This is not passive learning, it is a pilgrimage. The synthesis is inevitable. You begin in curiosity and end in conviction. Insight for Aries rising. Your mind is not meant to stay neutral. You are here to test ideas through experience and commit to what proves itself true in motion. This axis governs where you retreat and where you are seen. For Aries rising, the fourth house falls in Cancer. Here, beneath the armor, is softness. Home is not a place of dominance. It is a refuge. This is where the warrior lowers the shield, where emotion is allowed without performance. Nurturance matters deeply here, even if it is rarely spoken. The 10th house falls in Capricorn. Public life is not gentle. Authority is earned through endurance, discipline, and the willingness to carry weight over time. Recognition does not come easily. It is carved slowly, often through responsibility rather than desire. The synthesis is unavoidable. You draw strength from private vulnerability so that you may stand firm in public gravity. Insight for Aries rising. Your authority is not diminished by sensitivity. It is strengthened by the private places where you are allowed to feel without armor. This axis governs creation and contribution. For Aries rising, the 5th house falls in Leo. Joy here is radiant, visible, alive. Creation is not quiet. It wants to be seen. Play, performance, and self-expression restore vitality and remind the soul of its fire. This is not vanity, it is fuel. The 11th house falls in Aquarius. Here, the individual steps back so the collective can move forward. Belonging is not personal, it is ideological. Groups are formed around shared vision, not emotional closeness. The synthesis is unavoidable. Your personal radiance must eventually serve something larger than yourself. Insight for Aries rising. Joy is not a distraction from purpose. It is the power source that allows you to contribute without burning out. This axis governs what must be tended and what cannot be controlled. For Aries rising, the 6th house falls in Virgo. Here life demands precision, routine, and attention to detail. Service is required, not glory. Daily obligations press against the Aries instinct to move freely and independently. Humility is learned through repetition, through tasks that do not announce their importance. The 12th house falls in Pisces. Here, the boundaries dissolve. The will weakens. Control slips. Isolation, retreat, and surrender appear, often uninvited. This is where the I am is tested. The synthesis is unavoidable. You cannot charge through everything. Some battles are won by yielding. Insight for Aries Rising. These are not failures. They are the places where mastery is forged through restraint, service, and surrender. Finally, we bring these forces into conscious alignment. Every chart speaks through three voices. The sun is the purpose, what you are here to become conscious of. The moon is the need, what you require in order to feel safe, regulated, and alive. The rising sign is the interface, how life meets you, and how you are required to meet life. Conflict arises because these voices do not always agree. You may feel like your sun. You may react like your moon. But you are asked to walk the path of the rising. For Aries Rising, this often sounds like, I feel one way. I want something else. But life keeps asking me to act. This tension is not a flaw. It is the engine of growth. Insight for Aries Rising. You are not here to eliminate inner conflict. You are here to coordinate it, to let purpose, need, and circumstance move in the same direction. Counsel for others. Do not assume Aries Rising is inconsistent because their reactions change. They are often negotiating between what they feel, what they need, and what life demands in real time. No one begins life embodied in their rising sign. The Ascendant is not a gift, it is a practice. In early life, Aries Rising often wears poorly. There is impatience, recklessness, injury, physical or relational. Action precedes wisdom. Force substitutes for clarity. This is not failure. It is initiation. With time, the edge softens, not through suppression, but through experience. The warrior learns which battles matter. Courage becomes deliberate. Speed gains purpose. The rising sign becomes a second skin, something lived consciously rather than reacted through. Insight for Aries Rising. You do not mature by abandoning your fire. You mature by choosing where to aim it. Counsel for others. Do not judge Aries Rising by their beginnings. What looks like volatility in youth often becomes leadership once discipline is earned. The Ascendant is a hall. Sometimes it stands empty. Sometimes it does not. When a planet occupies the first house, it modulates the rising sign. The path remains Aries, but the way it is walked changes. If the hall is empty, the martial fire burns pure and unalloyed. Action is immediate. Instinct is unfiltered. When a planet is present, the fire takes on a shape. Saturn tempers it with iron, restraint, weight, endurance. Venus wraps the blade in velvet, attraction, grace, magnetism. The planet does not replace the warrior, it trains them. Insight for Aries Rising. Your rising sign sets the direction. The planets in the first house describe the tools you were given to survive that path. Counsel for others. Do not confuse Aries Rising with uniformity. Some warriors charge, some advance slowly, but all walk the same road. There are moments in life when the old skin no longer fits. These moments arrive when forces larger than the personal will cross the horizon of identity. When outer planets touch the Ascendant, the body knows first. The face changes, the posture shifts. The way you enter a room is no longer the same. This is not a reinvention. It is a shedding. What once protected you becomes too heavy to carry. What once defined you no longer responds. The warrior does not disappear. They are re-tempered. A new edge, a different weight. This is how identity evolves. Not through choice alone, but through time, pressure, and the turning of the great wheel. The rising sign is not a label. It is a landscape. You learn its terrain not by thinking about it, but by living through it. What comes next must be built,